The economy's shaking, tariffs are hitting, and prices are creeping up. So here's what I'm actually doing to prepare for a possible recession. Okay, so first off, I want to say that nobody knows what's going to happen in the upcoming months and years.
No one knows what they're doing.
But that's kind of the whole point. The markets don't like uncertainty. Human beings don't like uncertainty.
I want to know.
And human beings and our psychology are the entire cornerstone of how money even works as a system. So uncertainty in this economy affects all of us. And in today's video, I'm going to be focusing on practical, realistic moves to keep our household stable. And what you won't get in this video is fear-mongering, just concrete strategies that I'm using to navigate all of this. So without any further ado, let's dive in. Okay, so the first big move I've made with all of this is to front load major purchases. So what does this mean? It means that all the big ticket items that we could foresee needing in the next few years, we bought them as soon as possible. So frequent viewers of mine might know this, but we recently bought a new house in the fall. After 2 years of living on the road full time and traveling around in an RV, figuring out where we wanted to live. And anyone who has bought a house can tell you that you have to lay out a lot of money on the real estate transaction itself. So in our case as home buyers, we had to pay for the down payment on the house. We had to pay for things like the appraisal, the inspection, all that good stuff, all the perfunctories, and it ain't cheap. We had accrued a large emergency fund from various things. We'd been frugal in some ways, and also my husband and I have both been upwardly mobile in our careers. He's gotten promotions at work. I am a business owner. I have my own thing going, and I had a very large contract fall into my lap a few years back that produced a large windfall. That was very, very helpful. It did a lot of things for us. Now, all of that coming out of the emergency fund, very scary, not a good feeling, even though, you know, we're investing in our home, a place we're going to live for years and years, hopefully. It still was a very strange feeling to spend all that money. And normally in times where we weren't talking about tariffs and trade wars, I would have taken my time with the big ticket items. So here's a few things that we bought. We bought a nice bed. We had a bed in the RV, but it has to stay in the RV. And when we moved out of our old apartment, our old bed had aged out, so we didn't have a bed. So we bought a new bed, and we bought a nice bed, the kind of bed we would like to have long term. We also found that the grass was a little long at our house. We needed a lawnmower. And we had a couple different options there. We could have bought the cheapest lawnmower known to man and kind of brute forced it through and waited for our funds to top off. Or we could elect to do what we did. We bought a really nice lawnmower, one that would be what we wanted long term, and we got a combo with an edge trimmer. And normally we wouldn't have bought that right after buying the new house. We would have spaced it out, done a little at a time, but we knew we wanted to get in before the tariffs. So why are we doing this? Why does this matter? Well, here's the thing. Tariffs are an inflationary policy, and it's difficult to know which price increases will stick. And for us, it's better safe than sorry. It's good to have those goods rather than be stuck with something cheap or nothing and be faced with the cost of buying things that cost 25% more in just a month or two. And I'll get more into the uncertainty of tariffs and some of the stuff that's been happening even since I planned on doing this video towards the end. But I wanted to talk briefly about the second major strategy, and that is meal planning with inflation in mind. So here's the thing, it's become a meme at this point. The price of eggs has gone up significantly. Part of this is because of bird flu and how that's affected the laying crop. It certainly has diminished the numbers, especially among crowded chickens. Some of the family farms and free range chickens have been able to social distance essentially, and that's helped a little bit among them. But yeah, that's happened. And then on top of that, there's perception that eggs are scarce and that they're going to be going away, so people are also panic buying. It's both things, just like the toilet paper during the early pandemic days. So for me, the big thing is I'm not going to panic, but one of the big discretionary sources of expense in our life is the food budget. But here's the thing, we've also been on a big health kick. As I mentioned, we traveled around for a couple of years full-time in the RV, and especially the last 6 months or so when we were in one spot and we were house hunting and frankly grieving our cat who passed away. About then, we became a lot less active and I wasn't in great shape, needed to lose a couple pounds, and I just wasn't feeling good, you know? So in addition to all of that, so we've been on a health kick and I've been meal planning like a mofo. So a couple things that we do that are really helpful is we actually eat vegetarian about half the time. I'm not militant about any one way of eating. Don't at me about this. But I have found that we tend to feel better if meat is more of a treat. When we are eating meat, we're mostly eating white meat. Occasionally, like for a holiday, we might have some red meat. It's not out of our diet, but it's more of a treat. And that has helped a lot. I do some really great meals that basically take lentils and some spices and broth that my husband loves. And I'll tell you, my husband is a very particular eater. He has very high standards and he doesn't particularly like vegetables. So it's been really interesting. He's pretty good with legumes, with lentils and beans. So I've gotten very good at that. We also invested in a decent rice cooker so we could buy a big cheap bag of rice, and it's paid off already. And the rice cooker is something that helps us over the time. I tend to do beans a lot in the slow cooker with spices and things. So yeah, I got some really good beans and rice recipes. But in addition to that, I am using online grocery coupon sales. I have flyers sent to me. I have all the rewards cards for all the stores in my area. I know which things tend to be cheap at other places and I keep an eye on it, and I do a lot of loss leader sales. And it sounds like a lot of work, and it is when you first start to do it, but it doesn't take long till you actually get good at these things and you start saving quite a bit of money doing it. So I recommend it. It's something that I actually learned, oh geez, I'm gonna reveal my age here, but over 20 years ago. I was dirt poor at the time. We're doing better these days, but it's something that I got into way back then, and it has been actually a big factor in becoming upwardly mobile in the first place because we were able to save a lot of our money. Yeah, but no takeout, and do a lot of vegetarian food. It tends to be cheaper and we feel a lot better too. Also, the portion control helps. So with meal planning, we make sure that we don't have leftovers that go bad, and because we are dieting and portion control, we are eating less, which also helps with our food costs. So here's how I stay organized. I use Google Keep for short-term meal planning and my shopping lists. And then in my Google Drive, I actually keep master recipe lists of meals that we actually enjoy. It's nice too because if my husband wants to make something, he'll be like, hey, how do I do this? And I'll just be like, oh, just look, just search in the Google Drive, the shared folder. And he's like, oh, okay. He's been able to cook exactly like me at times when I haven't felt well. I had a surgery. He cooked for me afterwards. He's actually a good cook himself, but he and I are better at different things. He's more of a baker and he has a couple of meals that he does all the time. I am more of the experimental cook. I tend to be really good at developing new recipes. I'm excellent at sauces and seasoning, and I'm the meal planner. And I tend to be really good at doing meals quickly and with only a few dishes. So I tend to be the weeknight cook, and then he tends to do like show off meals on the weekend where he bakes bread from scratch and whatnot. And it works out fine. And actually in our Google Drive in the shared folder, I have a master list of 30 plus meal formats, which are things we always eat. So planning is easier. It's things we both enjoy that are fairly easy to eat. You know, something like pasta with sauce, you know, with optional meat. Like that's one of the 30 things. Kind of, if I'm feeling stuck or lacking creativity, if I have an ingredient that's on sale, like in one of the sale flyers, I'll sit there and be like, okay, I've got this turkey sausage, I've got these potatoes that are looking like they need to be used, I have this little leftover sauce in the fridge, what can I make? That works really well. I would show you my system, I would show you exactly what I have, but our system is balanced, particularly for us. So we are a 2-person household, and that's a big challenge for us because leftovers can be hit or miss here. I will eat leftovers. Justin is less likely to eat leftovers unless they're one of his meals he really likes, like leftover pasta he'll always eat. But he won't, most of the time he's not into leftovers, just pasta he likes, leftover, and pizza. He tends to have just a few vegetables he will eat while wanting to be vegetarian and not liking fish. It's very challenging. I kind of get it though because I have a couple of allergies that we have to work around as well. So there's this balance between the two of us. And whatever your home is, your challenges are going to look different. So it's really about analyzing what you need for food and what's going to work and being realistic and practical about it. It saves a lot of money though. Okay, so the third thing I wanted to talk about is financial liquidity. It's a sharp pivot. We're turning the corner. We're pivoting the couch. And particularly, I wanted to talk about our emergency fund strategy. So I mentioned that when we bought the house, we had to take a lot of money out of our emergency fund, and we also bought some large ticket items, some furniture for the house. We had to pay the movers to move our items from our storage unit. All these little things added up. We had to replace some of the switches in here. We've been upgrading as we go. Like the previous owner really liked incandescent bulbs. They're not energy efficient. They're costing a lot month per month. So we're going through and we're updating them with LED. And sometimes that's easy and sometimes that's hard depending on what's going on with the particular lighting fixture. So we wanted to have more liquid assets, especially because the markets do not like uncertainty and we are in an economically uncertain time. We knew that there was that February 1st date looming for tariffs. So what we did was we took and we moved some of our money market funds into cash savings before the market could react to the tariffs, to preserve value and to make sure we had the liquidity just in case, something major breaks on the house, something like the furnace. We want to have that. And also, I work for myself, but all businesses are volatile right now. My husband has an employer. He's in a pretty good industry, but one never knows. We would try to get another job, but who knows, right? Like with the market and everything, we want to have an emergency fund so that we could pay for the house while we figured things out. Now, the sad part is we're gonna have to pay some taxes on this, but we also know we aren't doing that till 2026. So we will approach that strategically. The idea is to have this as a fund and not to use it, to have it there in case, and then we can pay a few taxes out of it next year. Plus we'll have some new deductions. So why does liquidity matter? Why are we bothering with this? Well, like I said, buying a house and furnishing it drained our emergency fund more than we were comfortable with. And it made sense to us to top it off because we wanted to ensure that we had accessible savings in case everything gets worse. And finally, I want to talk about dealing with economic uncertainty because there's more than enough of that to go around. Look, the tariff situation is unpredictable. And as of this recording, Mexico and Canada both made a deal that's going to kick it 30 days down the road and make it a March 1st situation. But when I was scripting this, Mexico had made a deal and Canada hadn't. And anyway, deals can turn around in the blink of an eye. No idea what's going to happen. Not a fortune teller. No access to the White House. I'm just dealing with it the way that most people are. And that uncertainty is not really a good thing for markets. They tend to be really volatile in the face of uncertainty. So our whole thing was that we didn't cash out all our liquidity. We did keep some of our investments, especially long-term ones that we're planning on riding out. I was talking to a good friend about what I had done in this video. And she said to me, yeah, I'm not looking at my 401k for a while. And I think that's a good mindset. It doesn't do any good to panic. And when you don't know how things are going to shake out, you take steps to protect yourself, but then you kind of set it and forget it. Because preparing for economic downturns ideally isn't about panic, it's about flexibility. Anyway, at the end of the day, my recession planning philosophy is about controlling what you can, stuff like food and spending and emergency savings, the discretionary purchases, even ones that are required, things that you have a little wiggle in, like your food budget. And it also has to do with being strategic with purchases and buying as many essentials as you can before prices rise, if they do. And finally, about staying flexible, basically adapting to new information when it becomes available rather than making fear-based decisions. Anyway, it's been great talking to you as always. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.